Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We get your top stories from India and the region. I am Tanvi Taneja, and for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague in London, Ollie Barrett. Good evening from New Delhi, Ollie.
Happy lunchtime from London, Tanvi. It's 12:30 p.m. here, 1:30 p.m. across Central Europe. Coming up in the next half an hour. The missiles sent secretly to Ukraine. Spain's Prime Minister shocks the country. And Trump out and about as his trial resumes. First, the headlines.
US Secretary of State Antony Blinken lands in Beijing to meet his counterpart Wang Yi, urges fair treatment of American companies on his trip to Shanghai. China, in its response, affirms adherence to market principles. The US acknowledges that it secretly shipped long-range missiles to Ukraine, adding Kiev has now used them twice against Russia. Moscow says it won't change the outcome of the conflict. And India to hold phase 2 of its parliamentary elections on Friday, 88 seats up for grabs. First news from China. Trade issues took the center stage as US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met local Communist Party secretary and business leaders in Shanghai on Thursday. Blinken is in Beijing now and is set to meet Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi shortly. He's also expected to call on President Xi Jinping, where tough talk on issues such as Taiwan and China's support for Russia as it battles Ukraine are on the table. While reaffirming the United States' commitment to a stable relationship with China, Blinken also urged fair treatment of American companies in the country.
We have an obligation for our people and indeed an obligation for the world to manage the relationship between our two countries responsibly. The direction from President Biden and President Xi was to continue to build those lines of communication, to sustain them, and again, to deal directly with our differences as we also seek to build cooperation.
Reacting to Blinken's remark, China has called on the US to respect free market principles.
We hope
that the US side will respect the principle of fair competition, abide by the WTO rules, and work with China to create favorable conditions for the sound and steady development of China-US economic and trade relations.
And for more on the story, DD India's Laura Westbrook sent us this report from Hong Kong.
We saw some goodwill gestures on both sides in Shanghai, with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken attending a basketball game. He also went to a steamed bun restaurant, and he met the Shanghai Party secretary as well as business leaders and Chinese and American students. But really, as he goes to Beijing, that is where we are going to see some tough talk. And it does come as there is some tension on both sides as the US Congress passed this aid package, which included arms support for Taiwan, as well as a possible divestment or ban of the very popular app in America, TikTok, which parent company ByteDance is a Chinese company. Mr. Blinken is set to meet his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi, as well as a likely meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Top of his agenda really will be to get China on side in stopping Chinese companies funding Russia's war effort in Ukraine. He will also be trying to get China to help de-escalate the growing conflict in the Middle East. For its part, China has reacted angrily at that aid package which gives support to Taiwan, calling it that it was helping pro-independent separatist forces. And China has also said that it does want to strengthen dialogue, but it has also laid out its position and its red lines on key issues, including the South China Sea and Taiwan, which it claims as its own. Laura Westbrook in Hong Kong, reporting for DD India.
On to the West now. The US has acknowledged that it sent a significant number of long-range missiles to Ukraine recently and will send more if needed for Ukraine. My colleague Ollie Barrett is in London. He gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Ollie, US accepting that it sent long-range missiles to Ukraine but did not specify the number.
That's right, Tanvi. The United States is now confirming that Ukraine has been sustaining its operations against Russia recently, partly with secretly shipped missiles from the Americans. US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan confirming that a number of long-range missiles were recently shipped to Ukraine and that Ukraine has now used them twice against Russia, with more supplies to come. On Wednesday, US President Joe Biden signed into law a new bill which provides further billions of dollars in aid to Ukraine and also Israel and Taiwan.
I'm able to confirm, as you've heard from others, that in February the President directed his team to provide Ukraine with a significant number of ATACMS missiles for use inside Ukraine's sovereign territory. That shipment started moving in March as part of the PDA that the President authorized on March 12th, and those missiles have arrived in Ukraine. We will send more now that we have additional both authority and money.
Now, Russia says deliveries of these long-range army tactical missile systems to Kiev will not change the outcome of the conflict, but will create, says Moscow, more problems for Ukraine itself. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov says it means the White House is directly involved in the Ukraine conflict. The army tactical missile systems were used for the first time on April the 17th against a Russian airfield in Crimea. DD India's Megumi Lim sent us this report from Kiev.
First of all, the first time the United States sent these ATACMS missiles to Ukraine was in last October, but these were the mid-range ATACMS missiles with a range of about 165 kilometers. But this time round, in the latest military aid package, it is expected to include the longer range ATACMS missiles with a range of about 300 kilometers. Now, this would, of course, give Ukrainian forces the ability to strike military targets, Russian military targets, deeper within Russian-controlled territory, particularly in Crimea. And as you mentioned earlier, the United States yesterday confirmed that they have been sending these ATACMS and long-range missiles to Ukraine secretly in the month of February and March, which was part of the $300 million military aid package, which was approved by President Biden as part of the Presidential Drawdown Authority. And Ukraine has reportedly used them already twice, including on the morning of April 17th when they struck a military airfield in Crimea, which is located about 165 kilometers from the front line. So it is clear that these missiles will be used against Russian military targets located far from the front lines and will help Ukrainian troops degrade Russia's ability to carry out operations. Now, the White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that these deliveries followed Russia's procurement and use of North Korean ballistic missiles against Ukraine in recent months, and also Russia stepping up its attacks against Ukraine's critical infrastructure in recent weeks. So again, the United States have said that they will continue to send these long-range missiles to Ukraine.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's been meeting with UK Finance Minister Jeremy Hunt in Kiev, days after British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced Britain's largest ever military aid package for Ukraine. In the meeting, the Ukrainian president called for stricter sanctions against Russia and solutions to prevent Moscow from bypassing them. Volodymyr Zelensky also thanked the UK for its military aid.
Yeah, I had dialogue with Prime Minister Sunak, and I'm very thankful. We spoke with some details about the new package. Today in the morning I saw all the details, and we are thankful for this military support. It's very important.
Jeremy Hunt says his nation's strategic interests lie in Russia's defeat by Ukraine.
It is not just goodwill, it is the UK and European strategic interest that Putin must fail. And we know that, and we will do everything possible to make sure we learn the lessons of history and stop him. So we want to continue to support you in every way possible.
Moving to West Asia now, and Israeli troops are still set to move ahead with the planned military operation in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. But Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government has still provided no timeline. The Israeli army says it's prepared to evacuate civilians from the region. Israeli warplanes have launched strikes on the northern Gaza Strip for a second day in a row. US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says Washington is still talking to Israel about Rafah and that officials from both countries expect to meet again in person soon.
What I can tell you is the U.S. position has been clear on this. I've stated it from this podium. The president has spoken to it. And we've had very detailed discussions with the Israelis as recently as last week by secure video to talk through not just our concerns, but our view that there is a different way to go about dealing with the Hamas threat in Rafah and succeeding in ensuring the long-term defense and security of Israel. We are still in those conversations, and we will still continue to press our perspective.
DD India's Sarah Coates sent us this report from Tel Aviv.
According to Hebrew media, that yesterday the head of the Shin Bet and also the IDF Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi, that they were dispatched to Cairo, set to meet with Egypt's spy chief to discuss this potential operation down into that southern Gazan city of Rafah, where some 1.3 million internally displaced Palestinians are sheltering. Also yesterday, Ramesh, the military announced that it's deploying 2 additional reserve brigades of troops, which could be up to 10,000 fighters, to Gaza. They had previously been trained in the north or deployed to the north. They've now been trained for combat in Gaza and are expected to be on the ground in the coming days. There have also, of course, been these pictures which have been analysed by the Associated Press, which show these tent cities being constructed just west of Khan Yunis. Now, the military says that it didn't actually have anything to do with this tent city, but we do know, according to the military just around a week ago, that they have been putting in orders for tens of thousands of tents. Potentially these could be used down in southern Gaza. So certainly appears as though this potential operation may be on the cards. And if anything that we've been hearing from the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is to go by, he is adamant that this operation will happen, saying that the last 4 Hamas battalions remain there.
A political bombshell in Spain, after Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez announcing that he will be suspending public duties to decide if he wants to continue leading the government. It comes after a court launched a preliminary business corruption probe into his wife, Begoña Gómez's private dealings. Gómez has been accused of using her influence as the Prime Minister's wife to secure sponsors for a university course that she ran. She denies the claims. Former US President Donald Trump's been greeting crowds in New York as his criminal hush money trial is set to resume on Thursday. Donald Trump's team is grappling with how to continue campaigning as the former president remains largely confined to New York City because of the trial over those charges that he denies. The US Supreme Court will also hear arguments in Washington over whether he should be immune from prosecution for actions he took during his time as president. And with that, Tanvi, back to you in the studio.
Troubles for Trump continue. Thank you very much, Ollie. Ollie Barrett joining us all from London. A lot is lined up ahead on the other side. We'll tell you how India's ITC is opening Sri Lanka's biggest hotel, Ratnadipa in Colombo. And a team of marine wildlife experts teamed up with locals to save stranded whales in Australia.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I am Tanvi Taneja. We now get you the latest on phase 2 of elections in India. 88 constituencies across 13 states are going to polls on April 26th. So preparations are in full swing for the second phase of India's elections, for which voting will be held on Friday. The election will be held in 88 seats in 13 states and union territories, including the remaining part of the outer Manipur constituency in India's northeast. Polling for the Betul constituency in India's central state of Madhya Pradesh, which was scheduled in the second phase, will now be held in the third phase because of the demise of the BSP candidate. A total of 1,198 candidates from 13 states and union territories, along with 4 candidates from the outer Manipur constituency, are in the fray for this phase. So it's a high voltage campaign for the second phase of elections of India. Senior BJP leader and Narendra Modi is also in Uttar Pradesh today, campaigning across different regions, and so are opposition parties. Well, it's a tough call. Once again from DD India, we reiterate to all those watching in India to exercise the power of your vote, for every vote counts. And shortly, we will be joined by our correspondent, Akshay Dongre. In fact, he is here with us. DD India's Akshay Dongre joins us live from Noida, Uttar Pradesh now. Akshay, how are preparations coming up for smooth polling tomorrow in Noida?
Well, Tanvi, all the preparations are in order as far as the Election Commission is concerned. Now, taking cues from the first round of voting that took place on the first phase, a dip in the voting percentage has been seen in many constituencies, in many states, and that is going to be the biggest priority for the Election Commission on how to, in fact, promote more people to come out of their homes and come out in large number to votes, especially in the urban areas. Because when we talk about Uttar Pradesh, we not only have rural areas like the constituency of Amroha, Pagpat, but we also have constituencies like Gautam Buddha Nagar that are in fact huge metropolitan hubs. In the NCR region, there is Ghaziabad as well. And since the voting is taking place on a Friday, that has been a concern for the Election Commission, in fact, because in these urban areas, many a times when the voting day is near the weekend, people usually regard it as a long weekend and they go out instead of going to polls. So that is going to be one key challenge, and for that, the Election Commission has been asking people to, in fact, come out in huge numbers and vote instead of treating the voting day as a long weekend, so that more people can in fact join in this huge exercise. In fact, many campaigns have been run by the Election Commission. The focus remains the youth. That the Election Commission wants to come out and cast their votes. The first-time voters are going to be a huge focus. It's not just the Election Commission. Many companies, including airlines and other companies, are promoting people to cast their vote, especially the first-time voters, in terms of discount, in terms of benefits. A lot of offers have been made by these corporations as far as the first-time voters are concerned.
Yes.
So that remains, in fact, at the priority number one.
Cool.
Second is obviously going to be a free and fair election. However, given the fact that the voting is taking place in a
Right.
majorly urban and semi-urban area, that's not going to be a major concern.
All right. Thank you, Akshay. We look forward to tomorrow and connecting with you tomorrow as well. Back to New Delhi. On Thursday, the Ministry of External Affairs of India hosted its weekly press conference. During the conference, the official spokesperson of the ministry addressed the protests occurring at the Columbia University and various universities across the United States. He emphasized the importance of maintaining a delicate equilibrium between freedom of expression, a sense of responsibility, and the preservation of public safety and order in every democratic society.
We've seen reports or several reports on it and have been following related events. In every democracy, there has to be the right balance between freedom of expression, sense of responsibility and public safety and order. Democracies in particular should display this understanding in regard to other fellow democracies. After all, we are all judged by what we do at home and not what we say abroad. And as far as your question regarding Indian students is concerned, we are always in touch with Indian students, and as and when there are issues which have to be resolved, we'll look into it.
The spokesperson also briefed on the release of 10 Indians in Russia.
We are very actively pursuing these matters at various levels, including with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, Ministry of Defense, and several other organizations there. And we are committed to bring back all the people who've gotten in touch with us and want to be released and repatriated and returned back home. 10 such individuals have come back to India. They have been released and they have returned home. We have been assured by the Russian side that the other Indians who are there, they'll also be released and they'll return home.
India's rank in World Bank's Logistics Performance Report has improved to 38 in 2023 from 54 in 2014, with Indian policymakers recognizing the significance of logistics during a conference organized by CII for the first time on resilient exports and logistics for trade and connectivity. DD India's Jayanti Jha has filed this report.
A very important and timely
For the first time, a conference focused on resilient exports and logistics for trade and connectivity was organized by the Confederation of Indian Industry. In today's world, logistics is the cornerstone on which efficient global supply chains are built.
My take is that resilience in supply chains would require a 360-degree approach. One, it will require resilient supply chains. That would happen if we don't put all our eggs into one basket. We have to scout for products availability. Second, it has to be through interconnectivity, infrastructure development. Third, it has to be through productivity enhancement. And fourth, of course, sustainability and climate change. So these are 4 dimensions which need to be looked at holistically to improve the resilience in supply chains.
India's rank in World Bank's Logistics Performance Index has improved to 38 in 2023 from 54 in 2014, with Indian policymakers recognizing the significance of logistics. This can be seen in various government initiatives like Sagarmala for port-led development, the National Logistics Policy launched in 2022, PM Gati Shakti, Make in India, and Unified Logistics Interface Platform to increase foreign trade, minimize delays, and maximize efficiency.
On the global standards, we are coming on a much better scenario, and I'm sure with the various initiatives being taken by the government, we would see that we will further improve our logistics performance. As we have heard, now we are counted amongst the best ports in the global logistics index.
The conference saw speakers from both government and industry who spoke of the necessity of an efficient logistics network for enhanced trade in an interconnected world. With camera person SP Dubey for DD India, this is Jayanti Jha.
Sri Lanka's President Ranil Wickremesinghe inaugurated Sri Lanka's biggest hotel in Colombo on Thursday morning. Ratnadipa, which means Island of Gems, is ITC's first hotel outside India. Built at a cost of $500 million, the Indian hotel elegantly portrays Sri Lankan architecture and local charm. The hotel is 140 meters tall and accompanied by a 224 meters tall Sapphire Residences building. The two buildings are connected by Ahasa 1, a 55 meters sky bridge. The Sri Lankan president called the venture a result of the vision statement for better ties he signed with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. High Commission of India in Colombo said that the opening of the hotel will boost tourism in the country.
It is not only one of the biggest investments by an Indian firm in Sri Lanka, but is also one that is emblematic of India's commitment to Sri Lanka. Through thick and thin, having been built through a very difficult period of COVID pandemic and the economic crisis in Sri Lanka.
At an international conference on disaster-resilient infrastructure in New Delhi, US Ambassador to India, Eric Garcetti, echoed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's view that countries must build resilient infrastructure against natural disasters that are becoming more frequent and severe.
India is such a large country. I think the challenge for all of us, even big countries, is how do you make an impact? And I think it's when you change your mindset that you don't come to teach and to preach, but to listen and learn. And so I think we're gathering as much from India in this relationship as we're bringing to. For instance, being with SEWA, the organization that has 40,000 chapters here, and listening to a construction worker in Gujarat who's talking about in the hottest days, even with gloves on, she can't hold the bricks that her livelihood depends on. So how do we adapt and really think about this as jobs resilience as well, something that we've learned a lot on. So I think I've detailed a lot of the other ways that we're doing stuff, from educational curriculum development to one other thing I didn't mention, the South Asia Energy Database, which is a way to share and to help South Asian countries across borders when one is having disaster, free up electricity or water to another part of South Asia, and to think regionally and to really break things down across borders.
And very quickly, let's tell you what else is happening around the world. A team of marine wildlife experts teamed up with locals on Thursday to rescue around 140 pilot whales stuck in the shallow waters of an estuary in the southwest of the state of Western Australia. 26 whales had already died while being stranded on the beach. And the fourth edition of the Annaba Mediterranean Film Festival kicked off in Algeria after a break of 4 years. The week-long festival that started on Wednesday witnessed A Brighter Tomorrow by Nanni Moretti as the opening film of the event. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India Global. You can check out our website, our different social media handles, and of course, our DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. I'm Tanvi Taneja from my entire team here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.